Yeah. So I'm Cindy Arevalo, and I compete. I've been competing for 9 years. But my actual job, I work for an Aboriginal design studio. So I've not been in the corporate world forever, for 20 plus years. But competing has been my passion for the last 9 years. Ever since I had my daughter, essentially. So it was after I had my first child. I got into competing just because of the PT that I had at the time. She actually thought it was a good goal for me to achieve, trying to lose baby weight and all that kind of thing. And then, it was pretty much like I just fell in love with it pretty quickly, actually.
So what do you enjoy about competing? Because it looks pretty stressful. Like I've been in fitness for a while, but I've never felt drawn to it.
Yeah.
But I've never had a coach that's been like, oh, you should go give it a go. So what do you actually find exciting about it? Because to me, it's like, man, you're getting very lean, you're training very intensely, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reasons have changed over the years as well. Like it started off with, okay, this is going to be a great, really difficult goal for me to achieve, and it's going to require a lot of determination. And at the time, I was struggling with mental health because my daughter was diagnosed with intellectual disabilities. She was also born hearing impaired, and it was a lot for me at first, and I was really struggling mentally. And I think I just sort of dive into it because I wanted to dive into something else that was going to help me feel strong and kind of really help me through those challenging times. And I tried other things. I tried, seeking help professionally, like from a medical professional. I think fitness has always been a go-to for me anyway. Ever since I was really young, I was always really athletic. I was into basketball, netball, different kinds of sports, swimming. And then I was a Zumba teacher, which was really hilarious thinking back.
Zumba was so big for a minute.
It was huge.
My dad did it.
Yeah. And my parents did it too. And because I have a South American background, the Latin music was like, I loved it. I loved it with a passion. So I had always, had a hobby in fitness. It was always something that I loved, and I loved moving my body, and I've always enjoyed looking good and feeling good, right? And then, obviously competing is so extreme, but truth be told, I do have an addictive personality, so it kind of really fed that as well, just that part of me. I just got into it, and, when I look back at the very beginning, it was terrible. I had that sort of cookie cutter program where I was eating chicken and broccoli, and it was just terrible. It's been a long road. So like I said, the reasons have really changed over time. I've evolved as a competitor over time. So much has changed and continues to change, and I think that's probably why I love it, because I keep evolving as an athlete, as a person, as a mother, as a wife. It pushes me to be my absolute best. Sure, it's challenging. Sure, there's really hard things about it. Sure, there are times where I've thought, I cannot do this anymore. I can't do it. It took a 3 or 4 year break, actually, during COVID. And then I had my second child. So it was 4 years off competing, and that break actually did me wonders, and I felt like I was actually ready to get back into it after that, because I did go through a time where I thought it's really harming my mental health. I don't know how far we're going to go into this, but I've struggled with eating disorders, all this kind of thing that sort of started off from the beginning, the early stages of my competitive career. But I also did have a history of eating disorder. So when I was...
Before you started competing?
Way before, yeah. So I think it was just a trigger for that sort of, those behaviours to come back. And I hadn't been struggling with an eating disorder since I was about 18. And then I started competing when I was 30. So, yeah. It just brought a lot of those behaviours to surface purely because of those really terrible diets that I was doing, which obviously don't do now.
Yeah. But the nutrition has come a long way, because My friend competed as well. He competed in New Zealand, and he actually won a show, but he was doing a similar thing. I remember seeing him, and I was young and didn't know too much. I thought he was... I had a sneaky suspicion that he may have taken like some special supplements because he was huge, but like he didn't. But he was just...
you can buy those at the store.
But he was massive, and I saw him once, and he was like doing these incredible lifts. He's shorter than me and was like smaller than me.
People that are short are just so lucky.
But he was so strong. He was like squatting. I think he squatted around like 200 or something like that, and he was doing really incredible lifts. And before I trained with him earlier, he wasn't pushing out numbers like that. Yeah. But his diet was, he was like always having the oven on, like air frying, baking, like white fish, tuna, weighing everything. Yeah. And that's kind of what we thought bodybuilding nutrition was like. That's what you have to eat. And then you'd have to have like this was in the era where you have to have 8 meals a day. So he was always eating, timing things to perfection.
Yeah, right.
But things have really changed. And I think if you have a tendency or a history of eating disorders, it could be quite a task to go into that.
Yeah, 100%.
Weighing things, because you have to measure calories, or some people don't. If they just get a meal plan, then you can just follow it. But you still have to be very aware of what you're eating. And if that triggers something, then that can be a path that's not going to be the best for you. And I think that's why I think there's more of a conversation around it now, but a lot of coaches aren't making that recommendation now like they used to.
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of personal trainers would do that and say, this is a goal, because it's like, that's kind of like what we thought the peak of physiques was, like competing, and it still is. Yeah. But back in the day, it was more so like, you just compete and then you can just like give it your best shot and stuff like that. But now it's a little bit like, do you really want to do this? Because it comes with this, this, and this, and this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of negativity. I mean, it does really receive a lot of negativity. And it continues to be like, there's two sides of it. There's a real negative side to it. And there's also a really positive side, which you wouldn't really know until you are in it yourself. But if, going back to eating disorders, I think it's also the fact that there aren't many coaches they're not asking those questions. So, a client will come to a coach and, hey, I want to compete. And there's probably no conversation around the history of that person, like their mental health, or have they, had disorders in the past, like, whatever it may be. I just think that a lot of people kind of go into competing and don't really understand that it can trigger certain things if you have that history. And, restriction is obviously the main trigger, because you feel so restricted, and then it kind of takes you, then it kind of attaches, like guilt is attached to that, right? If you make if you eat off your plan or whatever it is, and then the guilt eats away at you, and then all of that, that's kind of like where you can spiral into that trap. But so for me, the early stages of my competitive career, I honestly, I don't even know how I got through all of that, to be honest. Yeah. But then I found a really, really good coach, and I've been with her for 6 years, and we have such great communication that whenever I did feel triggered during a prep, for example, I would communicate that to her. And then for the last few preps that I did, I actually did I'd follow macros versus a restrictive meal plan. And that really worked for me. That was perfect, because I didn't feel restricted. It didn't give me those triggers. It didn't, I just knew, okay, well, if I want 20 grams of chocolate at the end of the day, because that's going to, I'm craving it, or whatever the reason is, then that's great. I can do those things and I don't feel restricted, and I can be happy with the process versus, really struggling every day eating the same thing. And, but having done maybe 2 or 3 preps like that, just following macros, it really did me a world of good, because then the very last prep that I did, I was actually ready to do a meal plan. And the reason why I wanted to switch back to a meal plan is because we wanted to take out the variables, because the issue with following macros is that, they will be variables. Your body may fluctuate depending on what you eat. So we thought, okay, let's follow macros for a certain period of time through the prep, because I normally do about a 20-week prep. And then...
And is that prep just all cutting? So you're doing like a 20-week cut? Or
No,
is that
so
still
the reason
some
why
off-season?
No, so...
Or some bulking?
Yeah, so essentially for me, a longer prep works really well because you can do conservative calorie drops versus like an aggressive approach. Like if you start 12 weeks out, it's pretty aggressive. You're going to have really dramatic drops in your calories, and no thanks. That is not for me. So, a 20-week prep is beautiful because you can just have those little, and sure enough, there will be a point where it gets really, really tough.
It's
Usually
inevitable for it to
It's inevitable. That's the
very challenging.
Yeah, it's the name of the game. So 6 to 7 weeks out, sure, you're going to be struggling. That's the whole point of it. You're not going to be, your body fat percentage is so low that it's not a sustainable way to be. So those challenges will come. But having that flexibility early in my prep and really maturing as well, like as a competitor, I think has been really, really good for me. And that's why I've sort of regained that passion for it and have grown mentally, and all of those experiences that I had really early on, like they just seem so distant to me now, you know?
Yeah. So with macros, what would a day look like versus your meal plan day?
In terms of
in terms of
macros.
food choices, I know that macros can be different. So you can eat whatever you want ultimately, as long as you tick all the boxes, which is hitting the macros. But take me through a day of what a meal plan day would look like, and like what a typical, or maybe just an example day of what your macro day would look like, just to give people an idea of the difference.
So a meal plan, I mean, it's pretty much the same. It's just that you can include little things that you enjoy. Like, if in the mornings I want to have, I don't know, let's just say protein pancakes or something with, sugar-free maple syrup or something, whatever. Just, it doesn't mean that I'm obviously going to go and eat macros every day and just as long as it fits my macros. No, obviously you still have to have a really good diet approach, you need to, and I still eat like that in my off season. Like I rarely eat junk, but if I do feel like it, I will eat it because I'm in my off season.
Yeah. So in your off season, are you just turning up the amount of foods that you're having of similar foods?
Exactly, but there will be more flexibility. So, again, when you're a seasoned competitor, you understand that your off season is just important as your prep. So it's not just because, I'm not in prep, I'm going to go and get fat. And what you do in your off season is so crucial. Like it's even more important, you know what I mean? Because then the better your off season, the better your prep is. So, and I learnt that a couple of years ago when I realized I had a really, really good prep after having my son. Like I had a really good off season. We, did a cut phase and then did a growth phase, and I was really regimented. I was really structured because I knew I was ready to get back into it. I've had time off. I'm ready to get back into it, and I understand what it takes to get to that goal. No, I'm not going to take it lightly because I am, so focused on that goal and I know what it's going to have to take. So I had a really, really good off season and I had the best prep of my life. Like it was amazing. It was easy to me. Like it got challenging towards the end, but it was so easy because my body, it was dropping, I was dropping weight when I needed to drop. Like it was just, everything was flowing really nicely because I was so good in my off season. And I'm still doing the same thing now. Like I'm very structured. I eat, really good meals. I try to make them nutritious. If I feel like a dirty burger every now and again, I will have it because, again, you can have that flexibility in your off season. Like I don't go off the rails very often, but it was actually last week where I felt like I really needed a burger and chips. And this is like something I do all the time, but I was like craving it. And then I put it all into my Fitness Pal because if I'm going to go off the rails, I'll go off the rails. But then at the end of the day, I'll punch it all into my Fitness Pal to see actually like how bad I was. And I went 40 grams over in my fats.
Fat's always the one that'll get you.
Yeah, always. And then I was like, oh my God. And the guilt started to set in. But straight away, I texted my coach and I was like, look, so this happened. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to like take the fats off the next couple of days? Like, how do we recover from this? And she said, you're in your growth phase. You're all good. Like, it's don't just continue. Just pick up the next day and just get on with it. You know what I mean? And I think those, like, that's what I mean by the communication with your coach, like having that really good communicate. And I don't, you know, like a lot of girls don't disclose those sort of things. Like if they go off their plan or whatever, they just like let the guilt eat away and they don't tell anybody. And then it just, it screws up with your whole process. So
yeah, I think that with those meals as well, it's not so much the physical, but also like physiological, potentially not burnout, but when you're so regimented, it's kind of like you have this voice in your head that's like, man, this is too regimented almost. Like your training's regimented and you like structure, you were saying, but like training's regimented, your nutrition's regimented, and you have all these other things that you have to do. You have to work, work is regimented.
Yeah.
Then there's no element of your life that's like spontaneous.
Yeah.
So like sure, physically maybe you wanted that burger too, but there's also that element of like, oh, this is cool because I'm not really worried about it. It's just fun.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about flexible dieting. So even me as a coach, even though I'm not coaching competitive bodybuilders in any sort of division, I'm coaching people to macros. And we're not trying to hit certain weights and drop things. Like, we're trying to lose fat, we're trying to build muscle, we're trying to do all of that good stuff. But I just find that flexible dieting just provides people such a better quality of life.
100%. Yeah.
Also, parents that we both are, that flexibility is nice because to have things that, well, my daughter's too young to eat what we eat, but when your children get older to eat what you eat, you can't really have these like meals if you want, like, unless your kids are going to be sitting there eating like competitive bodybuilders as well.
Well, we actually have different meals to my kids.
Exactly,
So
but that takes even more preparation.
It does.
And sometimes you may not have that bandwidth or even time to pull that off.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're pretty organized, and I think, credit to my husband for supporting me competing for so long. He actually helps me with the organization, with the prepping. He will bulk cook some meat for me or bulk cook chicken, and we have rice on rotation at home, for example, and potatoes.
The rice cooker will be getting hammered.
Yeah, like they're the staples, and if it means that I have to have chicken and rice 2-3 times a day because that's all I've had time to prep, then that's what I'll do, and I'll just have the additional like salads or veggies or whatever. So we eat pretty boring. Like, at the end of the day, we're pretty boring. We kind of eat the same thing all the time, but it's what works. And then it allows me to have the little, extra things, the tasty stuff, that I crave or whatever. Like I'll still eat chocolate once a day or whatever it is, but 90% of my meals are really healthy meals. And I find that, sure, the flexibility is great and I can go and have that burger and chips when I want to have it every now and again. But then, to be honest with you, do I feel great afterwards? No. Does it affect my training? Yes. If I want to go and have a few drinks and go out and party with friends sometimes, yes, I can do that in my off season sporadically. But then again, the same thing. Do I feel great afterwards? No. like, does it affect my training? Yes. So like sometimes I weigh up, like, what are the pros and cons? Like, if I have, this can of vodka, whatever, and it's 110 calories or 150 calories versus that piece of chicken and rice or whatever, that's going to be the same calorie amount, but it's going to be so much better for my body. Why would I do that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, sure, it's fun there and then, but it's like I am... I live and breathe what I do. I live and breathe the sport, and it means so much more to me than going out and feeling like shit for a week after. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it just doesn't seem like it's worth it. Like the reward of winning is much greater than the reward of, let's say, having a night out. Because then if you don't win your competition or whatever you're going for, or feel like you've given it your best, you'll know that you have these things that you potentially could have not done.
Yeah, and it's not even about winning. It's just about feeling good in my training. Like, I absolutely... That's the other thing about competing. I think it's just knowing really why you're doing it. Like, are you really in it just to win a medal at the end? No, like I'm not in it for that. I'm in it because the process drives me and inspires me and motivates me. And the training, like I'm so obsessed with the training. And when I don't have a goal, my attitude to training actually does change. So if there's a goal in the end, and it's not winning per se, but it's like the fact that there is an end point, there is the stage that I need to get up on and demonstrate my hard work, then it's sort of that process is what I'm in love with. Like, you know, and if I know that crappy food and whatever is going to affect that process, then that's kind of like, you know what I mean, where I kind of weigh up the pros and cons. But every now and again, sure enough, I still do it because I have to. Like I have a husband that doesn't compete. He likes to go out and have a drink. He likes to go and have fun. Do you know what I mean? So I need to be a wife. I need to be a friend. I need to do all of those things. And in your off season is when you actually have the flexibility to do so. It's not when you're in prep. And he understands that. If I'm in prep, I won't go out. Like I'm in bed. Fun. I'm in bed every night at a certain time. You know, he understands that for those 5 months, 3 to 5 months, I'm in prep mode.
Yeah.
So yeah,
so, but like you have to have that support system as well, which 100%. Is quite rare because a lot of partners may be like, oh, you know, and you know, obviously we don't want people to be in relationships like this, but like they may not be as supportive and understanding. They may think it's, I don't know, selfish, or they may think it's like, come on, it's just this, it's just that.
Yeah.
It's pretty important. And even the fact that he's helping to cook and, you know, there's so much more than just cooking and sleeping. But, you know, those, like with bodybuilding, those things are very important.
100%.
And you can't just really, you know, get on with 3 hours of sleep consistently or 4 hours. Like I had a day yesterday where I slept 3.5 hours and woke up early for a podcast.
Yeah.
And I trained, but it was terrible. It was horrific. I like substituted every exercise for the easiest exercise possible.
Yeah.
I even took some out of the workout.
Yeah.
I was just like, I can't do this. So like instead of squats, I did leg press. Instead of something, I did leg extension. I just did everything that was just seated. Yeah. So I felt like I was like, I should.
Were your eyes closed too?
That's right. Yeah. Like I just wanted to sleep. Yeah. I probably should have slept. That like that probably would have got me more benefits than doing a shitty training session. But like, you can't get away with things like that, especially if you're doing it and you're up against people. Once again, it's not about winning, but at the end of the day, you are standing on stage against people.
Yeah.
You know, like they're probably trying to get more sleep and they're making the same choices as you are. So you have to really stay dialed in. It's important to have that support system.
Oh, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, we've had difficult times, you know, as a partnership, because that's essentially what a marriage is, right? And you both have to pull your weight. And you know, competing can be a selfish sport, but it's also, again, going back to being a seasoned competitor, when you first start out, knowing when you are being selfish and knowing and being really self-aware in a prep is super important when you have a partner and when you have kids and when you have a household. You've got to understand that it's your choice to compete. This is my choice. This is my sport. It shouldn't be affecting my family. It shouldn't be affecting my relationship. So there are boundaries that you have to set yourself. And there are, you know, you have to be very self-aware of, like, for example, you know how people say, oh, they get hangry, like in prep, and they get it moody and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, I went through that in the early stages. I would be that person. I would get really grumpy if I couldn't get my meal in or whatever. And it's like, I don't do that anymore. Like, I internalize that. You know what I mean? I don't voice those feelings. Yeah, you really have to, because I don't want to be unpleasant my whole prep for my partner. I don't want to be a moody mum. Like I don't want to be that person. If this sport is what I choose because I, you know, say that it drives me and makes me a better person, then I have to really demonstrate that it is making me a better person, not making me the opposite.
And at the end of the day, you've decided to sign up and you've decided to train and to have these meals and things like that. Like no one has really forced you to do that.
Yeah,
so
exactly. You can't whinge about it.
Yeah, because you voluntarily like walked into it.
Yeah,
and you're
exactly.
Just like if you're just volunteering to do something.
It's self-inflicted pain, so you can't be whinging about it.
Yeah, and no one likes a complainer as well. No one wants to be around that energy.
No.
Yeah.
And if you really do love the sport, then you've got to love the process, the good and the bad, the shitty days where you literally have no energy, but you're, you know, picking yourself up and going to do your workout regardless, and you're giving it your all, like you have to do that, you know, and love it, I guess, right?
So what does your training look like?
So at the moment in an off season, I'm currently sticking to like 7-week blocks. So 6 weeks.
7 week with one program?
Yes. 7 weeks, one program, 6 weeks, and then a week deload. And I'm loving the deload weeks, not going to lie, because I'm really pushing myself with this training because it has changed quite a bit. I've changed federations. So I won an Australian title in 35 plus in WBFF last year, and I decided to switch to IFBB. IFBB Bikini is a very different ball game. The bikini criteria is extremely different compared to WBFF.
Yeah, but it's the same. It's still bikini.
It is bikini, but so WBFF, for example, they don't look for, you know, like muscular delts, for example. They don't really want capped delts. They don't want too much conditioning. So there's a level of muscle that you kind of need to have to stick to the bikini criteria. And it's very quads and sort of glutes. Like that's kind of like the look.
Quite bottom heavy.
Whereas IFBB bikini, it's very, very different. It's more focused on glutes and like ham tie and delts and like small waist, and not like really, they don't really want much quad either.
Right.
So I had to pretty much.
Yeah, that's a very different look.
Yeah.
And training program. Like I'm just thinking of exercise selection in my head as you're talking. I'm like, that's a very different way to program.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty much just training delts, back, glutes, and hammies. Literally. I don't train quads. I don't train anything else.
Well, some elements of your quads will come through with the other exercises, right? So and if you just maintain the size of your quads just from some of the accessory work that they get with the exercises that you do, it might just maintain itself out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've loved it because it's given me new life in the gym, because it's a different style of training, and just the fact that I never really used to focus on upper body was also really exciting for me, because I've fallen in love with upper body training. And back in the day, if you had asked me like upper body day, are you excited? I would have been like, hell no. Like I used to hate it, but it was only because I was not good at it. And you know what I mean? Like I wasn't very strong. And now building my strength in my upper body has been really, really exciting. Just the different approach to training in general has been really exciting, and really kind of educating myself along the way as well, in terms of how to really, really train your glutes. Whereas I think back in the day, I used to think I was training glutes, but I think it was more like my back and, different muscle groups, or my quads, for example. But so I've learned so much along the way. And I think that's why, again, like I just love the process so much.
And what split are you doing?
Okay.
It's the question everyone likes to ask. What split are you doing?
Typically, I would be doing lower upper split, and it would be 3 lower, 2 upper. But at the moment, I'm actually training glutes 5 times a week. So it would be glutes, delts, glutes, back delts, and then one day with just glutes. Okay, so I'm kind of confusing myself. So Monday, for example, is glute, back, and delts. And then Tuesday is just lower body. And then Wednesday will be, again, glutes, delts. So it's hitting them every single day, and it's like volume across the week as opposed to volume per workout. And I have responded really well to it so far. So this is probably my 3rd week in this block, and I have never felt my glutes burn this much. Like it has been, and it was funny because at first I saw the program and I messaged my coach and I was like, what is the logic behind this?
Yeah, it sounds like because it sounds like a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. It's a lot of volume, but I obviously prioritize recovery as well. So I'm getting massages 1 to 2 times a week, really making sure that I'm stretching and all of that. But yeah, it's I'm responding to it really well so far. So yeah, and I'm sure it'll change the next block, but that's currently where we're at.
Yeah. And a lot of people can't really perceive like following a program for like 6 weeks or 7 weeks, for example, because people, and this is something I combat a lot on social media, is the like just random workouts. that kind of frustrate me when people just like jump from workout to workout, not even program to program.
Yeah.
Which is like bad enough in itself. Because if the programs don't make sense to each other, then you're just doing heaps of random stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
But if you're doing like random workouts all the time,
Yeah.
which is what a lot of people do, they'll like save a workout from their favorite influencer, which is cool. You can do what you want.
Yeah.
But like you can't just do that and then just like do another person that you like's workout and just like expect it to work and
Yeah.
expect to look like that person.
Yeah.
And if you look at the people that know what they're doing, or like some of the best physiques of all time and things like that, they follow programs.
Yeah. And every program is essentially the same thing, just different variation. It's the same exercise. And a lot of the exercises in my current block were in my last block, but it's just adding different variations or different ways of doing the exact same exercise. Really.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
And even with myself, because I coach people, like I do get some questions like, oh, how come we're doing this again? And it's like there's only so many things that you can do. Like we don't just invent exercises for fun. Like a squat has been around for ages because it's a great exercise.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. There are ways to make variation within a squat. So for example, for people that aren't aware, like you can do a back squat, that's a high bar. You can do a low bar squat. You can do front squats.
Yeah.
You know, even if you wanted, you could use a dumbbell if you want to do goblet squats, and then you can do split squats and all that kind of stuff. But even within the same exercise, if you have a back squat, like a high bar squat, for example, you can do 3 sets of 10, you can do 5 sets of 5, you can do, whatever, 6 sets of 7, you can do whatever you want to achieve. But then within that as well, you can change the tempo.
100%. Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't even aware of tempo as well.
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh yeah, I just squat. Like, oh, we're doing squats again. It's like, no, it's not a squat. It's a like 3 seconds down, 2 second pause at the bottom squat. It's very different.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like you can totally progress with those same exercises, just different approach. And like look for whatever you have, wherever you have better mind to muscle connection is like the key, right? Because like for me, tempo is where it's at the moment. Like
I love it.
You should see my workouts. Like everything is super slow, super slow. But I love how it feels. So I fall in love with that style of training. And different. What I mean by different variations, for example, if I'm doing like, I don't know, side raises. Like I'm now doing them on the floor. Like we're doing like lying side raises with the cables as opposed to standing, because for me, my problem was I was always bringing my delts in to do the work. Sorry, my traps. So, just that kind of like finding exercises where you have better isolation, like things like that, which is exactly the same exercise, but you're just like having better mind to muscle connection. Yeah,
I just programmed for Built by Brock, one of these programs that I do, and there's like a big kind of like membership of people that follow it, and the tempo is like 5 seconds down for quite a lot of exercises.
Yeah.
And everyone's like super sore,
yeah,
which is bound to happen with that sort of tempo. But also a challenging thing with 5 seconds down is you have to drop the weights.
Yeah.
And that's a good ego check.
Oh yeah.
Because if you're not following that tempo, you can lift much more weight.
Yeah.
Like you can, I don't know, maybe lift 30-40% more if you're just like going 2 seconds down, or like just kind of going down and up, like you would just, okay, we'll just do it comfortably. But if you're counting 5 seconds, 5 seconds has never been longer. It's like,
oh yeah,
it's such a long way down, like when you're doing it that way. But it's a great way to check if you're lifting with your ego or with your not, or if you're not, because it's a different, it feels like a different exercise to me.
Yeah.
And I'm following it at the moment, like my own program. And I did a push day, I think it was like maybe 3 days ago, and I'm still recovering from it.
Yeah.
Just because I wasn't training like this previously, and I went on like a holiday and I didn't really train. And it's just like that way. That
was this your recent holiday?
Yeah.
Where you said your abs were washed up, but really they weren't?
No, I was trying to share something, but I don't know if I succeeded or not. But yeah, I didn't train I think I trained 4 times in like 2 weeks, which doesn't really happen. I used to be like, I've probably chilled out more now that I would say, number one, just had a better understanding of training, and that like muscle doesn't really disappear.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing that I was trying to prove with that post, but maybe didn't. But
yeah. No,
like,
you did. You totally did.
Like,
you nailed it.
But yeah, like, I would usually lose my shit. Like back in the day, lose my shit if I missed a session. I would train on Christmas Day. I'd train on my birthday, which is New Year's Eve, and it was like a double whammy. I was like, I'm training. Like, you know, it was always like the hunt for open gyms, because gyms are always closed, right? Unless you're a member of a 24/7 gym, you can get in. But if you're not and you're traveling, you're like, I have to get somewhere.
There are still gyms that aren't 24/7.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It's a struggle. Like in Noosa, like not that I was going to train outside of hours, but that one wasn't. So I had to like, you know, go in at the right time. But I used to lose my shit and be like, I have to train. But like the more I've learned, the more I've understood, you don't actually need to. Like, it's a good habit too. Yeah. Obviously, you don't just want to like slack off for no reason. But if you're on holiday, it's like, man, it's and holidays are different when you have kids. Yeah. You know, as you would know. Like, well, I can't say kids. I have one daughter, but you know, and you have more than one. So it's time becomes more rare. Oh yeah. And just everything is
quick and efficient workouts are really good on a holiday. Like the last holiday that we had, which is a very, very distant memory now, but the last one we had, I do remember waking up before everybody so that I could get my, 30 minutes of like a workout. And it was a really quick, kind of like holiday circuit style workout. They're the kind of ones that you want to do. But I just felt great if I did that. And, I would get back and everybody was still asleep. So winning, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it didn't affect the family holiday. Essentially.
Just your sleep on the family holiday.
Just my sleep.
Yeah. That's one thing that I was doing. But I hate training in the morning. I hate doing it first thing. I saw that you train quite early. Yeah. I can't do that, but I suppose I have the freedom to train a bit later on, unsure of your schedule. Like maybe you don't, but I can't train early in the morning. I don't know how you do it. Like even after caffeine hit that would like wake up anyone, I still couldn't train. Like I just feel weak. Like I did it before we left on our trip to Noosa. I trained at like 4 a.m. Yeah. And man, I was lifting pathetically. Yeah. I don't know how you do it. Like maybe you get used to it. I even had like heaps of carbs the night before to try and like, come on, I'm coming in pumped. And I was like, let's go. And then it was just like pathetic.
I think that it has improved over time. Like I'm not going to say it was easy at first. And the only reason why I do it 3 times a week, I get up at 4. And that's because I work in Sydney. I live on the coast and it's the only time I can do it. Like I can't train after work because I get home and it's go time with the kids. So it's literally the only time I have. And I just do it. And at first it was really, really challenging and I had to get used to it. And sure, I wasn't my strongest at that time of the day. So it just meant that I had to train with intention and really tune into my body and like get the most out of my workout without having to go super heavy. But I've gotten better over time and it's just become like second nature now. So I still have a pre-workout meal. I get up literally like half asleep and I make overnight oats. So I pretty much eat the same pre-workout meal. So I get up, take it out of the fridge, eyes half open, like eat it and then, get ready and then it takes me about 40 minutes. Like from the time that I get up to the gym and then I do my activation exercises. So I do all of that while I'm still digesting because essentially like it's hard to train when you're still digesting, right? So it's good that I do my warm up and my activation and then by the time that's done, it's been about 45 minutes since I had the meal and then I'd get my caffeine in. So then I have my, toxic caffeine pre-workout.
Do you take coffee or do you actually take a pre-workout?
I do a pre-workout. Yeah.
I've given up pre-workouts.
Nasty stuff.
Like green and purple. Like, what is this?
Like you're literally struggling to drink it. But I do that and then I also have Gatorade Power during my workouts, which is the carbs. So I just have that energy coming in. Okay. And I actually feel really great. Like I feel great in my workouts. The only time I won't feel great is where I have less than 6 hours sleep. So I aim for 7, mostly 7, but sometimes it's 6. If I get less than that, rubbish.
It's a challenge.
Yeah. So that's kind of like how I've like structured it and just gotten used to it. And I'm a morning person, which is obviously works to my, like it's an advantage because I'm pretty much like I'm always on. I'm ready to go in the morning.
Like that morning routine would be even worse if you were hating it.
Yeah.
Like if you were a night owl and you were trying to do that, that would be impossible.
Yeah, like my husband's a night owl. Like
Yeah,
there's
right.
no way he would train at that time of the
Yeah,
day.
he's probably going to bed. You're like waking up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my mistake was I did it fasted, and that's
Oh no.
yeah. I was just like, It was too early to eat for me.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like, because I just like woke up and left straight away because we were flying.
Yeah.
But during the day, I need to have a few meals behind me. Like I have a big calorie budget. I eat like 3,500 a day.
Yeah.
If I'm to maintain my weight.
Yeah.
So if I'm building, I've got a pretty generous amount. Like I can,
Yeah, wow.
I can eat quite a lot.
Do you ever struggle to eat all that?
Yeah, sometimes. Like if I'm really busy at work and things like that, I look at my calories and I'm like, man, I got to eat 2,000 calories and it's dinner time. And I'm just like,
yeah.
so sometimes I can just really go for it. So that's where flexible dieting is good because like I can like on most Fridays, either a Friday or Saturday, I'll go to Grilled with my wife or like we'll get it in. And then like once baby's down, we'll like have dinner and I can have like 3 meals. 3 burgers and like chips and stuff like that. And that's, man, sometimes that meal is like 2,500 calories or like 2,800.
Wow.
So, and the fat is like astronomical.
Well, that's
It's
the
crazy.
thing. It's the fat.
It's over 100 like in that meal, just that meal alone. So when I'm tracking, I have to really put aside calories. Like I'm like eating like a peasant throughout the day because at dinner time it's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Because like recently I did like nothing compared to you, but like a cut just because I was running a challenge and I was doing it with my members.
Oh,
and
nice.
I think I only wanted to lose 3 kilos. So I'm like you, I like to do it slow. And like for someone that was like, I started at 92 and that's pretty slow for someone that's at 92 just to lose like, it was like almost like 500 grams a week. So I didn't even feel it.
Yeah.
Because my maintenance was like 3,500. I was at 30. My first 5 weeks, I was at 3,300. It was just nothing. Like 200 calories, you don't even feel that.
No.
And it just came down, and then I was like, oh, I better go to like 3,100. So I was there for 3 weeks, and it was finished. I was like, oh, like I didn't even feel like I was on a diet. But before that, I was like, I wasn't tracking, and I was just kind of like eating a lot of grilled burgers.
Oh god.
So I think I was at like 4, maybe 4.5 on some days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's crazy. I'm on 2.6 and I feel like every now and again I really struggle to get it in.
Yeah.
I have to be.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah, I have to be consistent during the day. Like I think where I get stuck is if I'm at work and super busy and I'm not able to get my meals in and then I get home and then I realize I still have like 1,500 calories, which is really hard for me because like one meal, like for example, the other night I had to eat like, I don't know, 350 grams of rice with like 200 and something grams of meat. And it was like, I was literally about to like by the end, you know what I mean? I was like really struggling. I said to my husband, like, I cannot finish this. So I sat there and like digested for 20 minutes and then I finished.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah.
But I like enjoying a bigger meal at nighttime. So that's kind of how I work.
Right.
I like bigger meals, so I don't snack.
Yeah.
I'm not a snacker. I've never liked snacking. I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
I like bigger meals. But so I'll have so my breakfast will be like 800, 900 calories.
Yeah.
And I just have yogurt and I just like throw things in it, like muesli bars, anything.
Yeah.
Peanut butter, honey. I'm just like, yeah, cool.
God,
some
hard
berries.
life.
Yeah, I know. It's like, well, with 3,500 calories, you kind of have to, because if I was trying to eat that super clean, that would be very challenging.
Oh,
so for me, I'm like, it sounds like I'm just having fun and like doing whatever, but I'm like, it's kind of like making the calories a bit easier.
Yeah.
And sometimes I usually have a smoothie and that's easy as.
Oh,
like
easy,
drinking calories, like I'll put 1,500 calories down like nothing. I'll be like, this is easy.
Yeah.
And then I might have like another 800 calories for lunch or something like that. And then I'll have quite a big dinner. But I like that because like all my work's done for the day. I'll get home and then I'm like, eat like just like pig out. And then I'm like, oh,
Does it
sleep.
affect your digestion or your sleep?
Nah.
No.
I've been a good sleeper since I was young, so I could just, I don't know. And same thing with training, because I was a personal trainer on the gym floor.
Yeah.
I used to smash like massive meals and just go train, just because I had no other option.
Wow.
So I would go to Guzman Gomez and like eat 2 burritos.
Yeah.
And then just
you probably
train.
have a really good metabolism.
Yeah.
By the sounds of it.
I've had that since I was little, just like eating a lot. But I think I have like a genetic thing where I just like fidget a lot. Like some people just sit there and they're cool. But I'm like under the table, like my knees like go up and down. Like, like you know how
I'm
people
actually
have
the
that?
same. Yeah, I'm the same.
So these people generally have higher higher calorie allowances because they just burn more calories in general. But some people just sit there and they're cool. They're just like, you know, but when I talk, I go like this. When I sit there, I like tap my feet. I don't even realize.
Yeah, I do this thing where I always scratch my nail. Like I need to be fidgeting.
It's just movement.
Yeah, it is movement.
So with that, it's called your NEAT levels, which you're probably aware of.
Yeah.
Which is like, can be seen as like you're walking and stuff like that. But then there's also things in the middle, which are like when you touch your hair, when you move your hands. And just, I have like a tendency to do things. So like even at home, like I'm more aware of it because I have a daughter now. Like I'll play with her, but I'm like running around and like dancing or like doing stupid things, like instead of
that's a great thing.
But I'm like a fun person because I like moving. Like if I'm just sitting down, I'm not just sitting down usually. I'm like burning things, so that allows me to have more calories. So drinking calories is like a big thing for me that helps. And like sauces and things like that really keeps me going, because sometimes I have to eat more. And sometimes when you're eating cleaner foods, it's like a bit dry and stuff like that. I'm not a foodie, so I'm just like more of an eat for fuel dude. So, and you kind of get like that sometimes in fitness, because you're like, that's what it is. Like you're like, I'm not hungry, but I have to do it. Or you just get used to eating kind of blander foods. And
just because you're trying to get it in.
And sometimes you just want to be healthier. Like you don't want the mayo and the sauces and stuff like that, because it builds the calories up. So you just kind of get used to it.
I'm not big on sauces.
Oh man,
like I've never.
I'm from New Zealand, so tomato sauces on it. Well, that's what I blame it on, but I put it on everything. I insult
that's my daughter.
Oh really?
She could have tomato sauce on tomato sauce. She would have it.
Yeah, it's a kid thing. I just never really grew up. So what does a day of like actually competing look like? So take us through the day of when you won your last show last year.
So again, I think one of the reasons why I wanted to leave WBFF was because it's a really grueling day. It's like, it's so much fun, but it's really long and tiring. So you're up at like 4:00, and with WBFF, it's so you have different outfits, like you have to do a dress round essentially, and then you do the bikini round. But like it starts, you know, at 4 or 5 in the morning, you get your makeup done, and then you're pretty much waiting around. So you either go back to your hotel room or whatever it is, and you're getting your meals in, checking in with your coach, practicing your posing, doing all of that stuff until you're backstage, and then you're, you know, waiting to get on stage. And like I said, you have different rounds. So yeah, it's a really, really long day backstage, and sometimes it's like, you know, quite tough because by that point you're already exhausted
and starving.
But you're also running on adrenaline because the day has finally come, right? You've been prepping for all these months, and it's like the day's finally there, and you're just running on adrenaline, and it's so exciting. But with me, I got to a point where the reason why I changed federations was because I kind of got over the dresses and the glam and all of that additional stuff. I just said to myself, I really want just bodybuilding. Like I want the process to be bigger than all of that stuff. Like, they do a registration.
It's a bit more glamorous.
It is really glamorous. It's kind of like, they call it like beauty pageant with muscles, you know what I mean? And it was really fun, and I loved it for the first couple of years. But, it's not really me. It kind of just didn't really align with me anymore. And I just really want to do just bodybuilding. I just want to consider myself just an athlete. The other thing that I just didn't really like was in the first few years, I found myself being influenced by what came with that world as well. Like, as I mentioned to you before, we were having conversation just in regards to like, looking for sponsors and being active on social media and having a large number of following and all of that stuff. I did all that in the beginning, and I think I was just doing it for the wrong reasons. I think it was just because I thought that's what I had to do as an athlete, as a bikini competitor, to get exposure, to get likes, to get, the federation to, like me or whatever it is. And so I was doing all of that. I had all the sponsors. I had I don't know, I can't remember if it was 20,000 followers or whatever on Instagram. And I look back now and I just, like, it was fun for the time being, but I just could not, like, it just was not me.
Yeah, nothing's going to last if it's not you.
Yeah, it was really not me. I found myself doing things on social media or posting in a way that was just did not align with who I was. And every now and again, I would check myself and then delete the post. I'm like, why am I posting this stuff? Like, I was just so influenced by the whole world that came with it. And I mean, I don't regret anything, but at the same time, like, I think that's why I say I've evolved as a competitor and I've evolved as an athlete. And now, like, I deleted that Instagram account. I was so over all these weirdos messaging, right? And just all this stuff that came with it. It was
time consuming, energy consuming.
time consuming. Like, I didn't want to keep up with the post and standing next to a supplement and saying, hey, buy this. Like, I just did not want to be that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now, private Instagram, I control who follows me. You know what I mean? And it's so weird to me now when I think about like how, I don't know, like how you open yourself up to getting people's opinions, like complete strangers. Like it's just,
It's kind of like, well, in your sport, there is a lot of that. Like sometimes I've seen some rumors or maybe just some posts around like people are unsure if they won it because they deserved it or is it because they brought so much attention to the sport or to that event because they had X amount of followers and things like that, which seems unfair.
Yeah.
But then there's also this element of like, that's kind of where everything is heading. Like, well, not where everything is heading, but that's like kind of like currency these days, like followings and I don't know how many comments and how many likes you get. And it seems so stupid because it's like, it's just on your phone.
Yeah.
But then you can see it from the business side of running the event. Like they want as many eyes as possible too. So it's like, it's become this mix of like, are you the best, which should be the most important, but then there's like this background floating thing of like, okay, but how many followers do you have? Who's sponsoring you? And like, who are you? And
people
you know, what
often
are you
actually
about?
ask those questions. Like, do you need to have, I remember when I was with WBF, I remember people would actually ask the questions to the people of the federation, do you need to have a big Instagram following to be successful? And like, when you think about that, how ridiculous is that? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's a sport. Why does like your Instagram have anything to do with what you're doing?
That's true. But that's where it starts to get grey, you know? Because like, if you think of a sport, like if you think of jiu-jitsu, right? You either win or you lose. Like your arm either could get broken and you tap or your arm just breaks and you lose. Like it's a bit easier to define who wins or loses. But with something that's up to, there are some objective things that you need to tick in a criteria, like you're saying, like delts and glutes and all that kind of things. But then there's these like subjective things that are like, maybe they don't really say is on the scorecard that do influence who wins or loses.
I think with WBFF, it's very much marketability. Like it really depends on your overall look and your presentation and your posing. A lot of that has to do with how you place. And I love the stage. And I think that's why I did well, because I love the stage and that really shows when I'm on there. So call me a show pony, that's what I become. You know what I mean? That's who I become on stage.
But that's also what they want.
Because I genuinely love being on stage. But what I really want now is I want to be judged on my hard work. I want to be judged on my physique. I want to be judged on how well I can fit the criteria.
Which is what it should be about
100%,
anyway.
Yeah, so that's why I think it's kind of like reignited this passion for bodybuilding, just because it's a complete different approach now. And I think I think to myself, why didn't I do this sooner? No, for sure. I think like when I hear that, I see both sides, especially because I'm so active on social media. But like, I'm not a competitive bodybuilder, so whatever. But I guess I'm just more so trying to get my name out. But you're not out there to say, hey, look at me, look at my body, right? So,
I
business.
definitely did at the start, because that's what I thought. That's kind of just like what you, like social media was so new. Everyone was just like, what do you do? So it's like, oh, you just put photos up of your body? Like, okay. Like that's like, oh, that's a personal trainer.
Oh,
like,
we all do it. We all do it.
But it was young too, so people were figuring it out. And then you also have to figure out what sort of attention you do want, because as you said, you got some creeps and, I get my fair share amount of it. And it's like, well, then what, like, is it their fault or is it because of what you're posting? Because you could be like, oh, I'm not about that, blah, blah, but then you like post photos that are like that.
100%.
So it's like,
that's the attention you're drawing
it's
in.
like, yeah, it's a bit of a question mark.
Yeah.
So like I've definitely gravitated away from, like I used to post like a lot of workouts and things like that. And I used to post a lot of shirtless stuff. Like I said, like at the start, it was like,
Yeah.
I thought that was what Instagram was about. Like that's
Yeah.
what you do. You just like post workouts and you post like shirtless selfies and everyone's like, yeah, you look good.
Yeah.
But then when I was like, oh, like I actually want to be a coach and be a really good one.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I need to actually like educate these people. And then
Yeah.
I really dived into education. That's why I stepped away from face-to-face personal training so I could go online and then I could learn more because I'd have more time. So then I'd be smarter than other personal trainers. And that's how I would get business because I was like a better coach as opposed to just like a better body.
Yeah.
Because if you want a better body, then, you know, you jump on a cycle and then train really hard. And then you're like, well, I should be the best personal trainer now.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's not what people are looking for. Often they're looking for someone that can actually get them from A to B.
Yeah.
There are some people that want to look like you, and that's understandable. But ultimately, people just want to get the job done.
Yeah.
Like they want,
I think there's
they're
just
paying
a
you for a
fine
service.
line, and knowing where that fine line is. Like, you know, obviously you have to look the part, you know.
Yeah, it helps.
Yeah, 100%. Like I wouldn't want a personal trainer that looked unfit. That's for sure.
It'd be challenging to digest, and then I think I'll just have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, so you know this stuff. Why don't you do it?
Why don't you do it? Exactly.
You feel like a therapist, but
Yeah.
it's a genuine question. And I worked in a gym with trainers like that, and like it definitely doesn't replace knowledge. Because if you're like let's say if you know a lot, but you're not applying it, I would still appreciate that knowledge. But then you'd kind of be like, but then yeah, why don't you do it?
Yeah.
But then if someone's like a really good body but doesn't know much, I think I'd probably rather train with the other person because they know more, because you're getting that knowledge. But I think it's definitely both.
Yeah.
Like if you have that knowledge, then you should really be applying it.
Yeah.
If you kind of know what you say you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what I try and stick to. I just enjoy training. That's why I do it. We were talking about it before.
Yeah.
You're like, so what do you, like, how's your training going? I'm like, oh, it's all, like, I don't really have a concrete goal at the moment. I guess I'm kind of searching for one. And I do jujitsu. So I just feel like at the moment, it kind of feels like my training complements my jujitsu. But then I'm like, I'm already strong. And that's all that it really needs to be in jujitsu. Because if I can bench 150 or 160 in jujitsu, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, you can, if you can bench press 150, you can push someone off you.
And is that your priority? It's jiu-jitsu over training, would you say?
Look, they're both hobbies.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm not getting paid to work out.
Yeah.
I'm like, not that it's about making money, but I'm also not getting paid to train because
Well,
that's
I
a
guess
hobby.
Maybe I should reframe that question. Maybe like what fuels your fire more?
At the moment, it's jujitsu.
Yeah.
Because it's more exciting at the moment. I think I joined jiu-jitsu or began jiu-jitsu because training after 14 years and working in the fitness industry and studying it and writing programs all day, every day, you kind of get a bit like, what else could I do?
Yeah.
And I was a big sport player when I was young. I played rugby, volleyball, basketball, everything under the sun. I did it all at once. So I had really awesome parents that took me to everything because that's a schedule, just taking kids to practice.
Yeah.
So I did all of that stuff. And then when I got into lifting weights, I just stopped all of it. And that's all I did was lift weights. And I really put all that energy into weights and work. So it was like weights and work. That's all I did.
Yeah.
And now there's like other elements of my life that I want to, like, well, you know, I'm married and I have kids and I still really enjoy my work. But with training, I was like, man, it wasn't stale because I still love it. And I appreciate that, like, especially this holiday I just did.
Yeah.
I really missed training. I was like, man, I can't wait to train.
Yeah.
But I was at a point where I was like, oh, I'm a little bit overtraining. So with jiu-jitsu, it's exciting because it's new and it's a lot of technique. Like with exercises in the gym, technique's not a problem for me. I know everything to do with training. Obviously, I can always improve and there's new exercises potentially to learn or new ways to do things that I'm always aware of. But generally, you know how to do a push-up, you know how to do squats and all that kind of stuff. You know how to tick the boxes. But with jiu-jitsu, like technique is a bit more endless to me. It's like, what is this? And I'm using my body in a way that I've never really done it. And I'm understanding concepts. And then there's stand-up wrestling part of it, then there's like on the ground, and then there's
Yeah.
different positions and all this kind of stuff. So for me at the moment, I'm like, this
You're
is
challenging yourself in so many different ways.
yeah, I'm like, this is exciting.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's like not having something to challenge you, and a goal, like I guess like a goal of some sort where you're driven by that. Then yeah, training can become stale.
Yeah.
Like depending on what type of person you are. Like for example, my husband trains to feel good. He doesn't necessarily want to have a goal, or, he doesn't necessarily care about following a program each, 6 to 7 weeks or whatever. He just wants to go and feel good, and that's what he does, and he's happy doing so, and that's great. Whatever makes you happy, depending on what type of person you are. For me, I'm very goal driven, so and I'm assuming you might be.
Yeah. If I don't have a goal, I just like flail about, and and then you just kind of feel like disappointed in yourself because you feel like you may have just wasted time. So
Yeah.
I like having that goal as well, because you feel like you're moving somewhere.
Yeah.
But then I feel like sometimes there's elements of your life where you can be very goal oriented, and then sometimes you really aren't.
Yeah.
And I feel like we only have, I talked about this in a post the other day, like we have 100 points of energy. Like this is just one way to look at it, and you can like choose how much you give. So like with training, you might give 80, and then you might not have much left over for other areas. So that may be like less regimented, because you're like you don't have as much energy to do it, because you can like regiment and structure, but it's quite hard to have like a perfectly balanced life. It's more like,
what is balance? I hate that word.
Yeah, me too. It just doesn't exist. But it's more like, like where do you put your energy at the moment? And I like to think of it as points, because then you understand that it's finite. When you think of like energy, sometimes you think it's this like magical thing that doesn't end.
Yeah.
But if that was so, we would just have these like awesome lives and just never get burnt out.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, at the moment, like quite a lot of energy goes into like, for me, like jujitsu and like family and like work and things like that. So when I'm doing weights, I need to follow my own program that I'm writing for other people, because I don't really want to think about it.
Yeah.
Because if I'm writing another program for myself, that's like more time and more energy and things like that. So I know that I write good programs for other people, so I'm like, all right, I'll just like do my own program.
Yeah.
It's just like I just have less energy for it.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I wish that we could keep track of our body battery and just kind of really know where we're at throughout the day.
Actually, we were talking about this with my wife and I, like, because we've been flying on holiday for a while.
Yeah.
I think everyone's batteries are like dead.
Yeah.
Like they're so exhausted. Like we'd get on the plane and everyone was like, everyone's just like out to it. Like everyone's like, it's like super loud. It's super bright, and it's not comfortable to be in a seat.
Yeah.
Yet, like all the adults are just like gone.
Yeah.
Like I feel like a lot of people are beyond tired.
Oh, 100%.
I would put myself in that category too. I'm not saying that these guys are at, like, I was like, man, I could have slept like that too.
Yeah. And that's why time's going so quick, because it's like you're always moving and doing something. And if not, you're asleep. If you know what I mean? It's like work, train, like this little, like I was talking about this the other day, where I literally, as a parent, which you might come across now or soon, but you literally have to schedule time with your partner, because it's not as simple as, hey, we're home together, let's hang out. You're either cooking a meal or cleaning up or attending to the kids and putting them to bed, and then you literally have zero time for anything else, because if you don't get to bed by a certain time, then you're not getting your 7 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nuts. Like we are all like, and then socializing. Who has time for that?
Yeah. I think at the point that we're at, we're not at the point of scheduling time together yet, because we only have one child. So like when she's asleep, we're hanging out.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And we're like,
and I'm assuming she gets to bed fairly early.
Yeah, but does she stay asleep? That's another question. So like she's not the best sleeper, our daughter. So it's like kind of like there's like intervals where we like she'll put her down, eat, and then she might wake up, so we like go. But anyway, so we're not at that yet. But we're at the point of like socializing with other people is like has to be scheduled, and like family and stuff like that, which you don't want to do or admit. But if you don't do that, then you don't see anyone, and then you just become like this hermit, like relationship that never sees anyone, which is like
not healthy.
It's worse. Like you'd rather be like regimented and like have see people and do things like that, then like just try and leave it up to chance, because that chance doesn't really happen anymore. Like back in the day, you know, when you're single and you're working and like you have like no responsibilities, you could like do whatever you want. Someone's like, hey man, you want to come for dinner? You're like, yeah, I'm free.
Yeah.
Now it's like, are you serious? Like
Yeah.
today?
I know.
And you're like, nah, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Time just becomes like super precious, and it has to be very intentional. But one thing I've learned is it kind of teaches you to be efficient.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
present with what you're doing.
Yes.
And maybe when I was younger, I was not as present with the things I was doing because I had more time. So I was like, oh, I can just kind of like
take things for granted.
Yeah, do a bit of this, do a bit of that. It's cool, you know. This task I could probably do in half an hour, but I might drag it out to 2 hours and like half do it, half watch a movie and be like, you know, and then like not really do work. But now, like especially during the workday when I come here, I'm like, let's do this, because when I get home, you know, things just continue rolling.
Yeah. And like I think it's also you know, important over time you actually learn it's quality over quantity in terms of who you choose to spend your time with. And you know, when I got into this sport, I actually lost friends. And I've had like, you know, situations where we didn't really understand each other anymore, because I guess, again, like people have this perception of the bodybuilding world, you know, and it's sometimes a negative, you know, look on it. And I've honestly lost friends along the way, because if they don't really understand me and understand what I'm about, and nor do they really want to, then they're not in my circle.
Or were they a friend after, like, you know, initially?
Were they?
Like,
yeah.
Is the question.
Yeah.
Because you think your friends would support you, whatever you want to do, as long as it's not harming them or other people. Like it's making you better. Yeah. You're really enjoying it. So you think a friend would just get behind it.
I know.
There's worse things to do.
But I think social media just, you know, it's obviously contributing to this, like the way that the bodybuilding world looks, I think, because of a lot of athletes who, I don't know, maybe over-sexualize themselves in ways by posting body pictures. And, you know, I'm not saying, like, I definitely love the fact that you can celebrate your hard work by posting a photo, whatever, in a bikini or whatever it may be, but it's just depending on how you do that and be tasteful. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't follow many people who post those kind of pictures that are really raunchy and that kind of thing. I don't do that, you know? And I think that's why a lot of people have this perception, because there are a lot of people that they're into bodybuilding, but then they kind of just, I don't know, it's just a different. Yeah,
no, there's that whole side. I'm definitely
a different side to it.
Yeah, I'm definitely away from that side. But there's it's like a crossover. It's like it's really weird. It's kind of becoming like, so personal trainers, it's not a weird thing now that, so I've heard, because I don't follow them, but like it's quite strange. I have a following in America that's quite large. Yeah. It's bigger than I have a following in Australia and like New Zealand, where I'm from. I don't know why. Maybe I don't know. It's like he's a Kiwi, and he's not an American. But like, it's not weird for a personal trainer to have an OnlyFans account as well. Yeah, I know. And then I get asked a lot, do you have one? And I'm like, no. And then if you think about it, like, why would a personal trainer have an OnlyFans account? Yeah. Like, that's not a personal, common. It could be, but it's not really a personal trainer, because if you were to hire a personal trainer, you'd want them to think about training in their spare time, not trying to like film themselves to sell it online. Yeah. Like, you would want a personal trainer studying, training people. Yeah. Programming, you know, doing what a personal trainer should do. Yeah. And, you know, you can't do two things like that. And yeah, I don't know. It's just, and photos and videos and things like that. It's like, how close can I get to sexualizing this that it's not too far? Yeah. But then with every video like that, like the needle just keeps moving a little bit to like what's acceptable. Yeah. And then there's just this like, what you thought fitness was originally. And like when I first started in it wasn't then. 14 years ago anyway. Like, there were dudes that had their shirts off and stuff like that. But it was never like they're trying to like seduce you. Yeah. It was like, hey, I'm jacked. And I was like,
Well,
oh, I want to look like that. But now it's kind of like, hey, I'm jacked. Do you think I'm cute?
oh my
Do you want to
God,
pay for my
some of
OnlyFans?
these
And it's
reels
like,
that you see,
it's different. Yeah.
just so self-absorbed. But like, I just think, like that's why I said, like it's how you do it. It's you can post a photo of your physique in a tasteful way, or like I remember back in the day, I wouldn't even post a glute shot. Like I would totally avoid it. Like
Yeah.
there is no way you would see a glute shot of me on my social media. And now, sure, I do, because I celebrate my progress, and it's the way that I do it. It's not, hey, look at my backside, I'm so sexy. It's, hey, I've worked really hard to grow this muscle because that's what I have to do to fit the criteria of my sport. It's not, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just all in that. And like, I think,
it's becoming, I'm not the biggest fan of the way that it's going, but I think that there's also, like, people are playing a part by making that popular.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important for people that are in the sport, like yourself, like myself. I step into that position that, like, don't go that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there has to be some sort of line where it's like, okay, like I posted a video yesterday, and then there was this guy, and I have a lot of like men that follow me, right?
Yeah.
Quite a lot of them are gay.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of gay clients too.
Yeah.
And even when I was a face-to-face personal trainer, I had gay clients too.
Yeah.
And this guy was like, he posted this because he knows his audience or something like that. And I was like, I don't think, oh, I have gay clients, I'm going to post this video to like, to try and like, provoke them in like some way, because then that's going to make, I was like, so like I replied to him, but I was like, man, like that is not like what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah.
This is very different. But then there's like, at the same time, I'm trying to like understand where they're coming from. And you can't blame them, because there is a lot of people that will do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's like massive pages like that that are doing that. So it's tricky, because then they just like kind of group you into, oh, you're into fitness? Oh yeah, 100%. You're like that. And like you,
it's just generalizing.
Oh, you're a bikini chick? Then like, you're this.
Yeah, it's the way of the world, and like with everything, there's good and bad in everything. There's two sides of everything. So, yeah, sure enough, there's two sides of bodybuilding, and it's just pick a side.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've made a great move to think of being an athlete and being a bodybuilder, because it's getting back to like what is really important, and getting rid of the fluff outside of it, 100%. Like the following and the this and the that.
All that fluff, really, just what it did in the end, it used to affect me mentally. It used to make me feel like I was an imposter. I wasn't being my true self. I didn't like who I was like becoming. I really didn't like it, and that's why I got rid of all of it. And, I one of the athletes that I am inspired by in IFBB, she's Laura Lee. She's an IFBB pro. And this stuck with me forever. I remember once she was talking about being an athlete first. I'm an athlete first. The rest comes after. Like, for example, she's very, very picky about the sponsors that she chooses and who to work with and what sort of content she puts on her page. And you look at her page, and it's very much her workouts. It's very much athlete first, and I was so inspired by that. And I'm like, that's exactly what I want. Like that's exactly who I want to be. So with that mentality, that's you know what I mean, comes the actions that follow.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to move forward. Like with anything, like people are trying to pursue a following before having a reason to have that following.
Yeah.
It's more like, I just want to be famous, or I want to be big on Instagram. I want to be big on YouTube. It's not like I want to be good at something that's going to make me big.
Yeah.
It's kind of the wrong way around.
Or I want to compete because it seems like it's the, popular thing to do right now. It seems like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So again,
it's backwards.
Check yourself. What are your reasons? What's your why? And my why continues to be the same. It's just, I struggled a lot with mental health. I still do. Raising a special needs child is incredibly challenging. It is a daily challenge where I am always faced with having to be my best self, to be the best mum I could be. And when I'm performing in the gym, when I'm doing what I do for myself, I feel like I'm at my best. So I think that's why I I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever stop. Do you know what I mean? And when I said to you before, I picked up surfing and I'm like trying to put my energy into other things to see if I get the same high, I guess, the same feeling, the same return. But yeah, no, bodybuilding for me just gives me that. It gives me that energy and that drive. So I think that's why I do it. And, you know, my daughter is honestly progressing beautifully and doing wonderful things. And like, it just inspires me even more because her daily challenge is just the small things, the really, really small things, communicating or, you know, doing things like self-care, looking after herself. And all of those things are incredibly challenging for her. And I look at her and I just think, God, if she can do this every day and she pushes to be her best every day, I sure as hell can do the same, you know? So getting up early and going to the gym every day and doing what I do, sure, it's a juggle. All of this is a juggle, but I can do it, you know? It's hard, but I can do it.
Yeah, I think it comes back to gratitude.
Yeah.
That, like so when I was younger, I lost my mother. And then since then, I've had an overwhelming sense of gratitude because you understand what it's like to lose something.
Yeah.
Right. And, or just experience hardship.
Yeah.
Like, and for me, I find this thing, especially in jiu-jitsu, where if I'm rolling with someone, I don't know if this is a lie or not, but it's a feeling.
That's a bad opening.
It's a feeling.
Yeah.
It's a feeling. Sometimes I feel like when I roll with someone, I can tell if they've gone through hard things or not because it's kind of about how fast they give up.
Right.
And it's just like a thing in my head that I kind of like keep, and maybe it's not a right way to measure it, but because it's so physical and it's so like you're putting people in like tricky positions, you're like, if someone just like,
almost like the passion behind it.
Yeah, and like the commitment, and even though it's just like it's just the sport, but like, you know, it can reveal a lot.
Yeah.
And like if it could be the same with training in the gym. If you've trained with someone and they stop really early, and you're like, man, you had 2 more, and they're like, no, I'm good. Like you kind of like maybe you haven't faced as much demons as I have.
Yeah.
But that sense of gratitude kind of like keeps you going.
Yeah.
And it keeps you appreciating the things that sometimes people don't even see.
Yeah.
And I feel like that may, you know, help you, I guess, because you're with your daughter, you're seeing what other people have to go through, what your daughter has to go through just to get by. And then you're like, man, if they can do that, then surely, you know, I can lift some weights or
I can
or
do
like
the hard
do a
stuff.
long day
I
at
can
work
do the
or
juggle.
be a little bit more tired or, you know, stay up a bit later to do this and do that.
Yeah. That's why sometimes when, you know, I have a lot of moms message me and just like, you know, find me inspirational and just say, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. And sometimes it's almost like, I don't even understand why they're saying that to me because it's like, I don't know, it's just so ingrained in me. Like it just feels like, you know, it's simple to me. I don't know. It just seems really simple to me. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's a juggle, but it just seems really simple. I don't know if that makes sense, if I'm articulating it correctly.
I think you're just like a few steps ahead of them. Like you've gone past that point of thinking, oh, this is hard.
Yeah.
Or, you know, why me? Or blah, blah. Like you're kind of like, you've moved on from that.
Yeah.
Because I think we talked about it earlier, how you were, I think it was before we were recording, but like you were saying at the start, you're like, oh, it was hard to balance everything, or like, or training was too hard, or and you were kind of like, oh, this is overwhelming and stuff. But then you've kind of like hardened your shell, and just kind of got to a point where like, well, this is just what we have to do.
Yeah.
So then you just do it. But sometimes people aren't there yet, and they haven't gone through the shit that you have to go through to be like, well, it's just what happens. Like it's just, you know, you be grateful and you just do the things that you have to do because, it's
I mean,
I don't know, it just has to be done.
The key thing is just really knowing who you are, knowing the reason why you do what you do. And I think that's what will keep you in check, you know? And I think the messiness from my early days came from not sticking to that, you know, not sticking to who I am as a person, not really, I guess, aligning with the reason why I was doing it in the first place and doing other things that didn't align with that. Like, so I think that's the key takeaway is just really stick to who you are at the core, and, you know, don't let society or other people drive your decisions, you know? Like,
So how would you encourage people to find that?
I guess, I mean, it takes a lot of self-work. It doesn't happen overnight. So yeah, it's really just looking within and like really just doing the work, you know. For me, it was, I don't know, I guess it's the challenges that I face with my daughter all the time that make me look within, you know, and kind of understand myself as a person and my reactions and why I do things and why I, you know, act a certain way. And like, I guess she's my mirror. So that's probably how I've grown as a person. So it would be different for everybody. But whatever it is that makes you hold that mirror up and really, you know what I mean? Really makes you check yourself.
Yeah, I found that the tricky times that I've been through kind of give you that time to reset.
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't have that time to, because like there's been times where I'd say I've done the self-work.
Yeah.
Where I would never really have done that if I didn't lose my mum, or if, you know, like there's a few things that have happened, like not as bad as that. That's definitely been the one that's been the most like earth-shattering thing. Like, whoa, what? Like, what now? But with these hard things that we face, you have to kind of like either grow or you could just kind of like get beaten by it.
Yeah.
So I feel like we have had this opportunity and we're like, well, we have to grow to move on. And then you do that work.
Yeah.
That kind of, I feel like levels up your character or your resilience.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I would like hit these times, and then there was other times where I turned 20 and I had like this, I call it a midlife crisis, but I was like 20, so I hope I make it longer than 40.
Yeah.
But I like broke down because I was pursuing music and I was very serious about it.
Right. Because you sing, right?
Yeah, I sing. And I was pursuing it like full on. And then I was in a band and we broke up. I went to the record label and did it myself. So that was pretty full on as well, because we were a band. They were in a city that we grew up in. And then I moved to Auckland in New Zealand to be at the happening place, right? For music, Auckland. Yeah. Like, it's not like Christchurch. Like, what goes on in Christchurch? Nothing. Especially after the earthquakes, there was nothing there.
Right.
So I like moved to Auckland. They were supposed to come. They didn't end up coming. So I kind of like just moved to a city on my own.
Wow.
And I was like, let's make it happen. We did some gigs and then I was like, this isn't working. Let's break up. So like we broke up and I was like, what the hell do I do with myself now? Like, I was like in my head, I'm a failed singer, I'm a failed this and that, blah, blah, blah. So like, I was like on the ground, like crying, and I was like, who am I? And I thought I was like, you know, it's like the end of the world because I was 20, you know? And then I look back now and laugh, but I was like,
everything is very dramatic.
Yeah, it's very dramatic. I was like, I'm old. And I was like, I just turned 20 from 19. I was like, mate. But that really forced me. I'm grateful for it now. To come back to that thing of gratitude that I mentioned. I was like, that made me grow up and level up really quick, because I was like, well, I have no one. So I couldn't lean on anyone. I had no family there. And I lived in a house full of strangers that I didn't really know. So I was like, okay. So like, I just grew up really quick.
Yeah.
So I got a job. I got qualified as a personal trainer, and then I got a job at a gym, and then I started working really hard. And then these other things kind of just like started coming. But without that hardship or gratitude to keep pushing on, I would never have like developed into the person who I am. And it sounds like the same for you.
Absolutely. But it's also, you know, not everyone can push through, right? You know, there's people experience hardship and it consumes them, and it you know, they take a different route. And I think, you know, having a support system is so important. And if you don't have it, I mean, I guess you're amazing, you push through that, you're right. But like for me, for example, I sometimes had my dad step in and give me a reality check. Like there'd be times where I'd be like, I don't understand why, like why is this my life? Why is it so hard? Because there'd be days where we couldn't go out into public because my daughter would have meltdowns, and we couldn't do a lot of things. We were really restricted, you know, as a family. And it would be really hard. It would be really hard to get through a weekend because I felt like there was just no respite. Right. And my dad would say my dad's very matter of fact. He's very that kind of person that just says wise words, but like, you know, And so sometimes he would just be like, these are the cards you've been dealt. And it was as simple as that. Like, it was as simple as just giving me a reality check that you can't sit there and wallow. You can't sit there and feel sorry for yourself, because these are the cards you've been dealt. Make the most out of it. What are you going to do? Do you know what I mean? It was just like those words just would it was like a light switch for me, because I would think, you're right. She's my daughter. I'm her mother. I've got to make the most out of this. How do I've just got to push through. I can't sit here and wallow. That's not going to do anybody good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then, like, if you keep going down that path, it can just get
spiral.
It can just get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
Lead to other things that won't be beneficial for you. So,
Yeah.
like, you have to, like, stop it and be
Yeah.
like, okay, this is
Yeah, and sometimes you
your
can
dad
do that
said.
on your own, or sometimes there will be someone in your support system that will.
Yeah, preferably you'd want to have other people around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just didn't have the choice.
Yeah, but you obviously did that on your own, where you
Yeah.
kind of just said to yourself,
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah. Well, usually when I wrap up the podcast, I say, like, where can people find you? But it sounds like you're not.
I don't want to be found.
Yeah. I will remain anonymous. See you later. But yeah, like, do you want to send people anywhere?
Sure, I will just filter them.
Okay. So if you want to be requested or accepted, you can send in your request.
I'm just joking. Yeah. No, I am on Instagram, obviously. Yeah.
Just don't be creepy. So
Don't be
so
creepy.
if you're a creep, you can stop listening. But if you're not a creep, how could people find you?
What's my Instagram? So it's Cindy.
Or like wherever you want to send people, or like say anything.
Well, so I mean, I live on the Central Coast. I train at Impact Gym, which is an amazing gym. I
It looks
love
awesome.
So much. Yeah, it's so
It
cool,
looks so
because
big
the
and
big
spacious.
warehouse gyms are I cannot train at an Anytime or any of those like gyms anymore, because it just
at
feel
it.
like little boxes.
Oh, my gym's the worst.
Yeah, I can't do it. So yes, and it's been great, because I've met quite a few girls that compete as well, and their mums, so we all gel, and yeah, it's great culture there. Very, very, very beautiful culture.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that's me.
Okay. So yeah. Do you want to give your Instagram one now?
Yeah, it's Cindy_Cordova_Arevalo. That's my maiden name and my surname.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out. I was like, what is that?
I just felt like, I still want my maiden name around, and I
Yeah.
never did it officially. I just, when I got married, I just became Cindy Arevalo, but my dad's surname is very meaningful to me. I even got it tattooed on my arm.
He sounds like a wise man.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll wrap it there. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And before we go, I appreciate that, you are a person that's sticking to what you are true to.
Yeah.
And I think that if, not just the fitness industry, but everywhere else, if people really stick to that, then it'll be a better place, because there are a lot of people that are, doing things like we said before, like in reverse, like, okay, how can this get the most views? I'm going to be that person.
Yeah.
How can this, look the best? I'm going to do that, instead of just going like, what should I do, or what feels good for me?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that feels good, then I'll do that. It's more so,
Does it align
Yeah.
with who I am? Yeah.
that should be the door you go in first,
Yeah.
as opposed to the final door where you've already gone through these other doors. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, does this look cool? Do I sound cool? Do I look cool in this? And
Yeah.
will people like this?
Yeah.
And then the last question is like, do I like this? But it's too late. It should be the other way around, because
100%.
often it's not going to be what you like. It's like what others like. So
And I think your body will tell you as well. I think you'll have, like, if you're about to post something and it's not really who you are, it doesn't align with you. I used to remember getting anxiety,
like gut feelings.
like a gut feeling before posting. You'd almost like, second guess, like, do I post this? If you're getting that, that's already an indication. That's already your body sending alarm bells.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I hope people be more like you, and yeah, I will continue to follow that light as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Cool.
And keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing.
Yeah, I will. All right. Cheers.
Thanks.